Coming home can be hard if you're a veteran of Iraq or Afghanistan. You may feel like you're all alone, but you're not alone. At iava.org, your fellow vets are all around you. Join our free online community, get the resources you need, and connect to other vets who know where you're coming from. iava.org. We've got your back.
Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phalen, a weekly program here on 90.9 FM WFCO Radio, and for our television friends on LSN right here, Time Warner, Channel 9 in Lancaster. Do appreciate you, the viewers and listeners, each and every week as we have, within the last 7 or 8 months, brought this to television, a program where we have guests from within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office and throughout the community. And this week it's Deputy Jerry Feyko. Good to see you.
Nice to see you, Sheriff. Thanks for having me on.
As always, and we were talking before airtime. We've done a few of these on radio, but this is the first time for the television one.
First one for television.
And I do appreciate the folks over at Fairfield Christian Academy that have a television studio within the church, and they do a terrific job putting this program together. Well, let's start a little bit, talk about you, a little bit about your career and how long you've been with the Sheriff's Office and some of your different assignments.
I've been with Sheriff's Office for 13 years now. Started off in patrol, went to the jail for several years, went back to patrol, worked second shift, which is generally the busiest shift. You hop from call to call. And about 5 years ago, I took over the weights and scales job, commercial vehicle enforcement, and I've been there ever since.
Any jobs during your career that you said, well, I really like this assignment, or I would have an interest in continuing in a particular area? I
really enjoyed working second shift just because it's busy and time went really fast.
And I need to congratulate you for our viewers and listeners. Deputy Feyko scored pretty high on our recent sergeant's test, and so hopefully within the next year or few months you're going to become a sergeant.
That would be my biggest goal at the moment.
You know, when you think about starting into supervision, what do you think, Deputy, are some of the important things as far as in supervision? Or some things that you've seen from leaders that you've worked for over the years that you would like to imitate, or what you think is important?
Oh, I've been very lucky with the Sheriff's Office. We have really good supervisors. Standing back and looking at supervision, it's easy to pick out bits and pieces from every supervisor.
Right.
And you watch how they handle a situation. Maybe it's, a disgruntled citizen that comes in and how they handle that. And I think it's interesting how many different hats, so to speak, that you have to wear at a time.
Right. And I certainly think, lead by example and those kind of things are always important. And you've been a good deputy. I think you're certainly well thought of within the Sheriff's Office and the community.
Well, thank you.
Recently we had quite a windstorm that came through Lancaster and Fairfield County. Did that have any impact on you at home or anything? Did you keep your power?
I've kept my power, lost my cable, lost quite a few shingles, had a large tree limb fall on my shed out back, and that was a cleanup for the weekend. Luckily, like I said, we have power. There's a lot of Lancaster and surrounding areas that's still without power.
I've been particularly impressed with the motorist, how especially when we've had intersections that where the red light was out, how people, by and large, have been very courteous when they go through those intersections. I don't know that we've had a lot of accidents at those intersections, but I think, and you may know better than I because you're out there every day, but it seems to me that people have been courteous, they stop, they wait, and people have taken this in a very positive way considering the circumstances.
I agree with you 100%. The people have been very patient. I know that the temperature's been way up and everybody wants to get their electric back on. The crews, every time I go past the fairgrounds, all the trucks are out, so you know they're diligently working to restore their power for them.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. We do tape this program ahead, but at the time of the taping, we have over 50% of the residents back. My mother-in-law actually has come to stay with us because she's a little bit older and lives alone, and so we were glad to have her there. But I know there's a lot of elderly that are out there, and they don't have a place to go.
Right. We've been doing some well-being checks the last few days, mostly from relatives out of the area or out of state, and they've called and wanted to make sure that mother or father, whoever, was okay, and we've been going out. You probably know better than I do. Is there any churches that are available to?
Well, I think what comes to mind is the Red Cross. In Lancaster on Mulberry Street, they've been putting the word out. This is a place to stay. Their air conditioning is up. They've got food, and it's a place to go. And I would just remind all of our viewers and listeners out there, if you have a relative that you're concerned about, even if there's not an adverse weather situation, maybe you haven't talked to them for a while, or maybe you feel uncomfortable, we certainly are glad to go out and do those well-being checks.
Yes, we are. We have in the past even taken cold water and stuff out to residents to make sure that they had fresh water to drink, because when your power goes out, a lot of people have wells and aren't able to get water.
And, I think the other thing it reminds me of is how dependent we are as a society on our electricity. It's just amazing because over a period of time, the food supply begins to spoil. And if it would be a major power outage that would affect a number of states, the gas stations are dependent on electricity to pump gas. So it could be very challenging, and that's why I think it's good that we have a good effort, a good plan in place in Fairfield County and beyond when those things happen. I know I've had a lot of contact with Chief Bailey during the last few days, and kind of working together and making sure that our radio room was up to snuff. And we brought in additional personnel during that Friday windstorm to kind of handle those calls. And I know a few of our supervisors were in there assisting with the calls. They had, it seemed to me, almost 500 calls during that evening.
That is amazing, and we can handle that many calls, especially under those conditions.
Yes. With us today is Deputy Jerry Feyko with the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, the weights and scales. Now, a lot of people out there may not know what it means to be a weights and scales deputy, and that almost sounds like I'm on a diet plan or something. What is the weights and scales, and tell us a little bit about what you do?
Well, the Weights and Scales is a program that I work closely with the engineer's office, and I patrol state routes, county roads, township roads, and we're looking for any overweight vehicles that could possibly damage the road. Basically, any tractor trailer over 80,000 pounds would be considered overweight.
And how, first of all, do you see a lot of this? Is it just something that happens now and then? And then how problematic is it to the roads?
Well, the issue is the roads, depending on the time of year, freeze and thaw. Water gets down inside the pavement, the heavy trucks go over, and the pavement starts to crumble. And in the summertime, you have the heat, and the heavier the truck, that's where you start developing the ruts in the road that everybody notices. Pretty much a full-time job. I do it 40 hours a week. I'm a liaison with the engineer's office also. So when there's issues involving signs or road conditions. A lot of times the deputies and radio will contact me first because I have a direct knowledge of what the engineers expect, the information they need to take care of the problems.
Well, when it comes to signs, let's say a motorist is driving down the roadway and they notice like a stop sign is down or something like that. What should they do? And then how do we respond to that?
Well, you should call the dispatch center, and they can connect you. You know, if it's in the city of Lancaster, they'll connect you with Lancaster. If it's in the county, a lot of times they'll just call me directly. I'll get a hold of the engineers and let them know what type of sign or whatever it is that we need. Or we'll, send the call to Ohio Department of Transportation. They take care of all the signs along the state highways.
Well, now that you mention that, I'm reminded of a tragedy, and I think it was Pickaway County, where some
Correct.
kids actually went ahead and put, was it bags over the stop signs, and then the motorists didn't see it, and they went through the sign, and they were killed, weren't they?
Yes, I believe it was two elderly sisters. They, some young juveniles wrapped the sign in plastic wrap.
Wow.
And they drove right through the intersection and ended up being in a fatal car accident.
Well, that is absolutely tragic, and again, if you're out there and you see some young people or anyone defacing these signs or maybe trying to tear them down or steal a sign, I think sometimes you'll see kids that actually take the sign and take it home and put it in their basement, or maybe like they did, put sacks over the sign for their amusement. These things can be very, very dangerous. In fact, the incident in Pickaway County was a double fatality.
Right, and we've had that. We had an issue several months ago with signs being removed or struck by vehicles in the Sugar Grove area. And we stepped up the enforcement in that area, and it seems to have rectified the situation.
They had a lot of signs stolen, didn't they, if I remember correctly?
I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but it was in the thousands.
Wow. So again,
thousands of dollars.
Right, not thousands of signs, yeah,
no.
but plenty. I can remember maybe it was 15 to 20 signs, and that was everything from speed signs. Again, I think there may have even been some stop signs that were stolen, and so we gave that some enforcement.
Yes, we went down. I believe we worked with State Highway Patrol and an effort to patrol that area heavily and rectify the situation.
With us this day is Deputy Feyko with the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. We're getting a little close on time. And what I'd like to do is have you back next week, talk about exactly how you determine whether these trucks are overweight, and then the penalties. And do you have some particular trucking companies that, and we won't name them, but are continually in violation? And what's the motivation sometimes for having a truck that's overweight, and how do we determine, and then what are the penalties? So can we have you back next week?
Yes, I will be here. That'll be an excellent idea.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sheriff.
and again, I do appreciate Deputy Feyko, a 13-year veteran of the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office. Consistently does a super job, and he's one of these deputies that goes out here day in and day out and serves our community. I want to take a second and certainly thank each and every one of you out there for your patience. Our deputies, our dispatchers, they were really overwhelmed that Friday evening with calls. As I mentioned earlier, they had over 500 calls into the dispatch center in just a few hours, and the phone did not stop ringing. And by and large, citizens were very understanding, and there were certainly some citizens that were upset. And the reality is sometimes all you can do is all you can do. We only have so many deputies out there, but there were a lot of trees in the roadway. There was a number of wires down, and Fairfield County residents in this community really pitched in and did their dead level best to get through that. And even as we go through a number of days after this windstorm, we still have a number of residents that are out of power. If you have a neighbor, especially if it's an elderly, look out for each other, check in on them. And again, if you're out there and you have concern and you live somewhere, call us. I had a lady that I talked to a number of times within the last couple of days, and she was concerned. She lives in the Violet Township area, and we just kind of kept in phone contact. She said she had a neighbor that was kind of looking out for her, bringing her ice, bringing her food into the house, but we kept contact with her, and just this morning she told me her power was back on. So again, kudos to each and every one of you, especially as you approach those intersections. And again, if you go to an intersection and that red light is not functioning, that is treated as a four-way stop. We want you to stop, pay attention, take your time, and get through the intersection safely. Again, to the folks here at Fairfield Christian Academy and Fairfield Christian Church, thank you for letting us use your studio each and every week to produce this program. And I do appreciate the listeners and viewers each and every week. Well, the clock on the wall says we've got to go. Until next week, same time, same place. If you're out there driving, buckle up. God bless, and we'll see you right here next week.
That's low and below.
Look, he's blushing.